Greetings, children of the screen, your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here. And today we will be talking about Gotham by Gaslight, the newest animated feature put out by DC Comics. Rated R and coming in at 78 minutes, the film is directed by Sam Liu, written by Kim Craig, and executive produced by Bruce Timm. It is based on the 1989 original graphic novel by Brian Augustine and Mike Mignola, and because it's pretty much impossible to talk about the film without talking about the book, I'm going to go ahead and get into that here and get it out of the way. Gotham by Gaslight has been hailed both for its steampunk-infused graphic style as well as being the book whose popularity would kick off the DC Elseworlds imprint. It gives us an alternate take of the Caped Crusader with him emerging in the Victorian period, set against a changing world where mankind is reaching new heights into the light through technology, but far out of the reach of that illumination, the downtrodden are still subject to the darkest shadows of humanity. What we see here is a Batman set in a world that is becoming a world that needs a Batman. More than ever, this Batman is a product of Gotham City and its evolution, as if one day men would look back and say that Batman gave birth to the 20th century. One of the things so great about the original book is that it works off an implied inherent understanding of the Batman mythos in a very broad sense, meaning that they don't have to show us the Batcave, they just have to indicate there is a Batcave. Or we don't need to meet the Joker, we just have to hear that there is an analog Joker for this world. Finally, putting Batman up against Jack the Ripper is a fantastic choice that both roots Batman firmly in the period with a story in keeping with the style and tone of his contemporary world and stories. Furthermore, it provides one of the world's greatest unsolved cases for the world's greatest detective to solve. At the end of it, all these things coalesce into a vision that is unique, alien, but at the same time completely indicative of all things Batman. So now, to the film. Warning, there might be some slight spoilers ahead. So, my biggest concern going into this was the animation style. Gotham by Gaslight is one of the most graphically striking and hauntingly beautiful visual renditions of Batman's world, and with this morning's Saturday morning character design, I was kind of worried from the time I saw the first trailer. And while the character designs are slightly underwhelming, once the movie gets going along, this does not distract. The settings and backgrounds are beautiful. Likewise, the fights are awesomely choreographed and extremely engaging. The only real complaint I have in terms of the animation is the fact that it looks a little jumpy in places, as if maybe they didn't have enough frames to fully fill out the motion. I've been saying for a long time that if DC would just put a little bit more money into their animation, we could end up with something that is truly special. I personally still love 2D animation, but seeing a DC animated movie in the style of the Injustice or the Arkham City games would be amazing. So yes, the animation and visuals do have some flaws, but nothing crippling, and overall the rest of the movie compensates for it adequately. The film has a fantastic cast. Standing out among them is Bruce Greenwood, returning as Batman, giving us a more grounded, possibly most emotionally stable variation of the character we've seen to date. Jennifer Carpenter, who really surprised me with an amazing performance as Selina Kyle, just really does everything right. And again, this may just be my personal thing, but Anthony Stewart Head might be the best Alfred I've ever seen. The whole voice cast is fantastic, but these three really stole the show for me. The film also introduces many Batman characters who originally were not presented in the book. This is something I thought that I wouldn't like, but it actually works pretty well. The characters themselves are interesting, but they still operate off of that inherent knowledge of Batman's mythos. So, for those of us who have a cursory knowledge of Batman's universe and characters, it feels a little bit more fleshed out, despite these characters not having a lot of screen time. But for those less familiar with the world, I can definitely understand how these characters didn't work for them. And while this might be considered a failing of the movie, I think it's more in keeping with the extrapolation of the original source material's methods. And finally, the story. The story in the film is greatly altered from the source material. However, due to the fact that the story is a mystery/thriller, and the original book's mystery was in fact the weakest point, I was quite happy with this change. I didn't see what was coming, but upon second watching of the film, I noticed there are lots of clues laid in. And while I won't spoil the new killer, I will say that it is completely in keeping with the methods of extrapolation presented in the original book. Basically, the killer is a takeaway from a very specific Batman character and a very specific time in Batman's mythology. And maybe one people might not remember so well, which in the end really helps the narrative. This is one of those few cases where I would say the film may not be a great representation of the source material, but still manages to be a fantastic film separate from it, similar in that aspect to Fight Club, Naked Lunch, or Children of Men. In fact, the complete and total rehauling of the story might be this film's greatest strength. So guys, I really enjoyed Gotham by Gaslight. I went into it with a fair amount of reservations after the last couple of films from DC Animation, and while this film definitely has its flaws, they're negligible in the total sum of the film. They changed just enough to keep it interesting while keeping all the things that make the original book truly fantastic, and while much of the new stuff they give us is technically fan service, it is done efficiently and with the goal of serving the overall piece. All in all, this might be my favorite DC animated movie since Assault on Arkham or maybe Justice League Gods and Monsters. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. But that's just my opinion, guys. What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, then please give it a like and share it with some friends. That is more important now than ever. If you're not subscribed, then definitely subscribe so that you can check out all the cool content I'll have coming out in the future. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all have a great night. Nerd Scum out.